And we are finding that people are being deceived. They are being deceived and don't know where to go or where to turn in terms of the truth. You know, what is the truth? And so as a result of them not knowing the truth and what is the truth, and it's easy to say, well, Yahusha said he is the truth. He is the way, the truth, and the life. And that's very, very much the fact of the matter. He is the truth. But as it pertains to what's going on in this hour, people gonna ask, what is the truth? What is all this stuff that's going on? People are starting to notice. We're seeing different signs and supernatural activity within the sky. We're seeing orbs. The federal government, if anybody has been paying attention, has just come, and it's blowing my mind because I've been teaching this, and to be honest with you, I thought maybe I'm a little crazy, right? But this is the fact of the matter. What they call UFO, now they're calling it UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. What they are is, again, the return of the Nephilim. The return of the Nephilim. And we are seeing these things happen. They are happening right before our eyes. And beloved, those of us that are prophets, those of us that are called to the teaching ministry, we are commanded to give an answer. We have to give an answer when they come asking us, what is this nonsense? What is appearing above the skies? What are these orbs? They're even asking, what are UFOs? So the government called these preachers and said, prepare your congregations. Well, when I heard that, I got excited because I'm like, Father, you're confirming. It feels good to have the Messiah confirm your ministry. Rabbi Dr. Makeda, don't that feel good? You serving the most. I tell you, the one who knows me the longest is Shalek Akai Ben Yehuda. If it wasn't for the ministry and the anointing upon Shalek Akai Ben Yehuda, I would not be in this Hebrew walk. I'm just being honest. I would not be in this Hebrew walk. I was stuck in Christianity. I was stuck in that belief system. I was just stuck. And Yahuwah used Shalek Akai Ben Yehuda. I mean, we met in 1983. He was working as full-time as a mechanic. I was just coming out of automotive mechanic school. So, we connected that way. And my first car, Shalek Akai Ben Yehuda, I don't know if you remember this. My first car, I had a Plymouth Duster, a 1973 with that slant straight engine. You remember that? And that thing just kept breaking down on me. And Shalek Akai Ben Yehuda will help me go right under, lift that car up and go right under it. And we would just work on that car and work on that car. You know what? I would have that car today if the K-frame didn't rot out. But that's another topic for another time. But we became close in fellowship. And as he was grown in the ministry, the prophetic ministry, Yah will use him to encourage me. Now, let me fast forward. As I came into ministry and was operating as a bishop, he was going, I noticed he was walking more in tune with the Hebrew Israelite family. And I didn't realize it, but my affiliation with the bishopric was very offensive to his Hebraic walk. Number one, I wasn't keeping the commandments. He was keeping the commandments. Number two, he was observing Shabbat. I was Sunday morning. And I really didn't think that it was no thing. Until one day he came and talked to me and said, brother, I can't fellowship with you no more. And I said, well, why? What did I do? Did I say something wrong? Did my breath stink? What's going on? He said, listen, it's the fact that I'm an Israelite. And what you teach and preach don't line up with what I believe. Because what I believe is Torah, Tanakh, and Brit Hadashah. I didn't understand that. I really didn't. Until one day, the Messiah visited me himself. And he had to peel my eyes open. You hear me, Rabbi Abigail? He had to open my eyes. I was a consecrated, Rabbi, I want y'all to hear me. I was a consecrated archbishop. Okay? I was a consecrated archbishop. I was becoming known. I was doing a lot of traveling. Went to Africa and was very successful in establishing ministry there. And so I was used to the flow. I was flowing. But the Messiah was like, son, I'm trying to pull you into truth. I'm trying to open your eyes. But I wasn't trying to hear that. And when Shalek and Ka Ben Yehuda said, I can't fellowship with you no more. What you're into is offensive to my Hebraic mindset and walk. I didn't understand that. I felt bad. I felt sad. But I stayed in what I stayed in until Yahusha himself visited me. And he removed the scales off of my eyes. And he did it. I'm going to tell you, it was a Sunday morning. I was behind the pulpit, get ready to preach to my congregation. He arrested me right there. I stopped. I couldn't move. My eyes looked at the pages of the scriptures. Then my eyes looked up at the audience. Then I went back to the scriptures. And I grabbed the mic. And I said, beloved, I'm a Hebrew Israelite. And when I said that, it's like a bomb exploded. An explosion that I can't explain. It was just a bomb of revelation. So when I got home, who do you think I called? Of course, my wife was trying to calm me down. I was excited. I called Shalek Akkad Ben Yehuda. I was like, he called, he said, yeah. I said, Shalek, guess what? He said, what? He said, I'm an Israelite. No more Christmas, no more Easter. He screamed in that phone. He was like, hallelujah. I was like, no more of this, no more of that. Then he said, finally, your eyes are open. Remember that Shalek Akkad Ben Yehuda? That I still think about that. But nonetheless, I didn't realize what, Danielle, I didn't realize what the Messiah was getting ready to do. I tell you what, I was like, okay, I got to sit down because I don't know nothing. And Yahusha said, I've been teaching you this for a very long time. I've been teaching you this. You already know the truth. Now just flow in it. Just flow in it. So I'm happy, but at the same time, I remember that, okay, I said, all right, how am I going to flow as a prophet and apostle? The word apostle in the Hebrew is shaliach. And you're bringing me into what I didn't realize is that I was studying this since 1985, the rabbinical office. I was studying this since 1985, 84 to 85. The first time I started preaching in Hebrew Pentecostal assemblies, right? So when this truth bomb exploded, I was willing to sit down and find somebody to sit under. Yahuwah said, no, I've been preparing you since 1985 for this. Go forth. And when he said go forth, that's what I did. I went forth. And so here we are in this hour. Some of the questions I had were, well, how can I bring forth this Hebraic truth at the same time operate as a Shaliach and Nabi? Well, the Most High said, I'm going to lead you. When you open your mouth, I'll fill it. Well, thus saith Yahuwah. And so this is what we've been doing. This is what we've been doing. Now, watch this. He called me away from buildings. I had a building. He said, give the building up. I'm doing a new thing. Now, I can't comment on other rabbis and shaliachs and seers who have a physical building that they meet at. Hey, listen, my chief rabbi still have a building, all right? And when we meet for feasts and stuff, we go to Shaliach Ka Ben Yehuda and his wife, Prophetess Joyce Wallace. They have a facility in Glenside that we often go to for various feasts and whatnot. So that being said, as we look again, Yahusha was telling them, basically in verse 2, you see this beautiful building? It's going to be thrown down. The bricks are coming down. It's going to be destroyed. In other words, this building is going to be destroyed. And he said it's not about the building, y'all. It's not about the buildings. It's not about that. He said, yeah, there'll be times where you will traverse and you'll be in several locations, but it's not about that. But what I don't, you know what, Rabbi Dr. Makeda Deboya, she visited when she was in Nigeria. She went to, we do have a building, we have a cathedral right there in Nigeria. We do have a cathedral. We caught some hell trying to get that thing together, but and it's still being worked on, but it's nevertheless functioning. It's nevertheless functioning. So we thank the Most High for allowing us to have some property that He has given us. And you know what, Shaliach Ka Ben Yehuda, I think you're being called to go back to Africa. And I hope I'm with you. But I know you're being called to be prepared to go back to Africa. And I'm praying that I go with you. You know, um, if any of y'all never been to Africa, let me tell y'all something. It's a beautiful continent. It's a beautiful continent. Um, it's work there. It's different, but it's beautiful. All right. And I'm saying that for this reason. Shalak and Ka bin Yehuda been to the land of Israel, right? He's been there. I've been, listen to this, y'all, to what I recognize a part of the Holy Land, Kenya. I've been to Kenya. And when I set foot off that plane into Kenya, I can't explain how strong I felt the presence of Yah. I felt his presence, and I looked around. I seen nothing but royalty all around me. And I said, and Shalek bin Yehuda, I was saying to the Father, so what is this that you're showing me? This is something. And he was saying, I'm showing you something because the land of Yashael is not what they put on the map. It's not just that. See, y'all, this is when the Messiah began to deal with me, that they are lying to us through the maps. That map is not accurate, right? But we'll come back and talk about that another time. But in dealing with the, let me finish in Matthew 24. He tells them that this temple is going to be destroyed. Verse 3. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the Talmidim came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? When is this temple going to be destroyed? When it's going to happen? And he said, and what's going to be the sign of your coming and the end of the world? Verse 4. And Yahusha answered and said unto them, here's the sign. I'm answering your question, but I'm giving you a warning. I'm answering your question with, number one, a warning. And what is that warning? Number one, he says, take heed that no man deceives you. No man deceives you. Verse 5, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Mashiach. I am the anointed one. Or I am one of the anointed. You have a lot of people in these religious circles, in churches, or what do you want to call them, synagogues, mosques, it doesn't matter. They're walking in the spirit of deception. Wow. This is deep. He said, take heed no man deceive you. He said, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Mashiach, I am the anointed one. That's what that means. And shall deceive many. Let me stop right here and go back to this, what they're talking among themselves in the government and with these pastors. They are telling these pastors, aliens are among us. They're telling them that they are here, functioning even within our government, our school system. This is one of the things that they are telling them. And it is mind-blowing because there are rabbis like myself and others have, Shalak bin Yehuda, been preaching this and teaching. We've been warning for years. And now all of a sudden, because the government is concerned, this has been going on, y'all, for years. There are 3 races of so-called aliens that they are consulting with. The reptilian, the Nordics, and the alien grays. Okay? The alien grays, these are the individuals, look thin, big bulb head, big black eyes. Rabbi, why are you talking about that? It's indicative of the hour. Okay, the Ruach just brought this back to my spirit. How many of y'all remember what happened in my... Let me pick with you for a minute, Sister Danielle, my Akoti Danielle. Do you remember that story that happened at Miami Mall? I think it was 3 years ago. You there, Danielle? If she's not there, I'm going to pick with somebody else. Yeah, the Miami Mall. You remember that? You remember that? Okay, watch this, y'all. I sat and watched that thing as it started until it was over. I watched it. They called the entire Miami-Dade Police Department to that mall. Some was trying to lie and say, well, they came because there were kids fighting and throwing firecrackers. That's a lie. That's a lie. This individual, he's on YouTube. He told his story. He said he was with his family, and all of a sudden, all these kids and people started running. He thought they was fighting. He turned around. This is what this brother said. He said, I turned around, and it looked like this odd image in the middle of the mall just formed. What he was describing was a portal came into sight. And then he said, out of the portal came these 8 to 10 foot tall beings. As I tell this, it's something goes cold through me, because these are the return that with the so-called aliens, they are Nephilim. Well, okay, wait a minute. I thought you said Nephilims are demons, and demons are disembodied spirits. So how is it that these demons have been able to manufacture a body which appears to be biological, but it's not? This is all in conjunction with the times of Noah, the end of days. They have successfully stolen the eggs from women and seed from men and mixed it with their DNA, which is a hybrid DNA, and manufactured bodies for these Nephilims. We also taught and warned that the orbs, the lights in the sky that the government is calling UFOs, they are the technology that comes from the fallen angels. The problem that this country and others have gotten is they have sold their souls for fallen angel technology. You look at in the late 40s, the early 40s, and that sort of thing, we didn't have all this technology. This technology came from fallen angels. I'm getting ready to say something. You look at wars, and I'm one of those, Rabbi Dr. Makeda Deboya, Yashael and Hemi, that's my spiritual daughter. She encouraged me. She says, you know, when it comes to history, she said, you are excellent when it comes to history. And you know something? I never really considered myself on par with being excellent with history. I'm gonna tell y'all this, and we're gonna get ready to close. I cut up a lot when I was in school, in grade school and high school. I was a devil. I did a lot of stuff, and when I went to Martin Luther King High School in Philadelphia and got kicked out because there's a lot of gang fighting. I got kicked out, and they asked me, they said, well, where you want to go? I said, Germantown. So I was transferred to Germantown High School. That was a party school for me. All I did was talk to the young girls and drink liquor and listen and party and dance and you know, I was stupid, you know. And when I did, Danielle, when I did go to class, I was drunk half the time. But when it came to history, I remember going to class to history, and I sat there, and what the teacher was teaching, it grabbed a hold of me. See, I'm gonna give you my testimony real quick. I was born again. I became born again in 1979, but because I wasn't consistent in reading my Bible, going to church, praying, I fell away. I backslid, right, and stayed out there until the Most High yanked me back in. He was like, either you come back or you're going to die. And if you die backsliding, you're going to hell. I was like, okay, I'm coming back. I'm coming back. I'm not, chasing these girls ain't worth me dying and going to hell. I'm coming back. He had his hand on me, y'all. So, Danielle, I'm going to tell you, when I did go to class in history, see, I wasn't good at math, you know. I wasn't good at math. I don't know how I made it out of regular math to I had algebra 1, algebra 2, and then I wound up with geometry, and I stopped right there. I was like, yeah, forget that geometry stuff. But that's another topic for another day, because geometry is sacred as it pertains to the Hebrew. But I'll leave that alone right now. So I got a history got a hold of me, and I did some studying, wasn't consistent with it, but the Most High, when he brought me back and renewed my spirit and launched me into the ministry, 1985. It was something about history that he led me into the prophetic realm, where I studied biblical prophecy. But then he took me to Bereshit, chapter 1, and I remember reading from Genesis to Revelation, just absorbing his word, not understanding my purpose. And I remember certain prophets and prophetess, I would meet them, and they would begin to prophesy over my life. They looked at me and said, "You're not a normal preacher." I said, "What?" They said, "No, you're not normal. You don't have a normal ministry." I said, "Okay, well, What do you, please explain yourself. What is God saying? You had one prophet just looked at me and said, you got a bulldozer ministry. I said, a what? I got a bulldozer. What, I'm a construction worker? Technically, spiritually speaking, yes. Yes. I'm like, okay. And then the Messiah said, I'm calling you to deliverance. Now, Danielle and Rabbi Makeda, y'all, I'm not trying to make y'all laugh, but I'm going to tell you what I did. I was like, no, not me. You're not calling me. I'm not messing with no demons. Can I tell y'all why? I told this before, but I don't think Danielle was here. I had a fear of the ministry of deliverance. I'm going to tell you why. When we moved up from North Philly to West Oak Lane, my parents joined the local Catholic Church parish, St. Athanasius, St. A. We call it St. A's on Lankill Pike. And I went to kindergarten and first grade. First grade, I got kicked out. I got kicked out of the Catholic school because I was fighting. I'm not going to get into that, but I had to box. Somebody tried me, and I remember punching them in their nose and making their nose bleed. And the nuns, let me tell you, back then, those nuns would spank you. Not just in Catholic church, in public schools. Y'all remember? They would get those rulers and stack of them together and tell you, stretch out your hand and crack your hand. And sometimes they would get a yardstick and crack you on your backside. Yeah, that went on in Catholic school and public school. And to be honest with you, some of these kids need a behind whip, but I'll leave that alone right now. So I got kicked out. The nuns called my parents and said, come. George Foreman, yeah. But I was stupid. I had the fist fight, I had nice curly hair, I was thin, little bit of muscle, and the little girls liked me, and I liked them back. I was stupid, I was, getting into trouble. So my parents drug us to St. Athanasius, put me in that school, and we would go there, especially on Easter. We would go to church. It was boring. I didn't understand Latin. Kneel and say this prayer. Get up, sit down, kneel again, and then we just run home. And we would run home, change our clothes, and then go back out to the movies. In our area, there was 2 movies on Cheltenham Avenue, the Earl Inn Theater, and Broad Downey, the Esquire. So we had the Earl Inn and the Esquire. We mainly went to the Earl Inn. All right. My dumb brother, my older brother, took me. We saw a movie called Beyond the Door. That was a knockoff movie like The Exorcist. We saw The Exorcist. I was scared as a dog. That movie scared me. It looked like the devil had more power than God. I'm telling you. That movie, Beyond the Door, The Exorcist, the devil beating up the priests. The girl, she's turning her head backwards, spitting up green stuff. Scared me to death. Fast forward. I'm saved. I'm born again. And the Almighty is sending prophets telling me to get ready for ministry. You have a ministry. Okay, what kind of ministry? You're going to be tearing down structures and you're going to bulldoze. What? Oh, you're called to cast the devil. I said, I'm going to tell you what I said. I said, hell to the no. I'm not dealing with no devils. And the Most High, he got tired of me. He was like, listen, you got to do what I say. No, I can't. He said, well, what's your problem? I said, the priest got beat up by the devil. The Almighty said, fool, that was a movie. He said, you let me teach you. Let me teach you. And y'all listen, I want to, as I talk about this, I want y'all to be careful of some of these books that have been written. I remember buying the book called Pigs in the Parlor, right? Wrong move. I threw that book so far in the trash. There was another book, He Came to Set the Captives Free, by Rebecca Brown, Dr. Rebecca Brown. Garbage. Those two books, you don't need to read no books concerning deliverance. I'm going to tell you, the Pigs in the Parlor was so terrible. It was so terrible, doctrinal wise. They would teach, Danielle, that if you had a cold, let's say you had a cold, your nose start running. Well, you had a demon. You get a stomach ache. That's a demon. Everything was a demon. I just hated that. And then I'm called to cast demons out? No, time out. The Most High said, you better obey what I called you to do. And just so happened, when I said a yes to the Almighty, little did I know, people, one of my former classmates called me and said he was thinking about committing suicide. So me and a couple of brothers and sisters ran to his house in Germantown. And I want to say this, and I'm going to close this out. I didn't know he was a closet homosexual. I didn't know that. Why am I saying that? Because when we got there, he was talking some homo talk. And he said something to me. He said, if I wanted to go, I wanted you to take me out, you would have took me out. I looked at him and said, I called him the N-word. I said, if you'd have came at me like that, I would have punched you right in the face. I would have knocked every teeth in your head down your throat. And one of the young brothers, he looked at me and said, yo, what are you doing, man? That's not him. You talking to a demon. Get in the spirit. Get out your flesh and get in the spirit. I was like, okay. I repented, and we got prayed up. And then when he came back at me again, I said, stop. I said, not you. I said, I'm speaking to that spirit speaking out of you. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I just began to rebuke him. Hey, y'all, listen. It's one thing to watch movies. It's another thing to read other people's testimonies or read a book about deliverance. It's different when it happens to you live and living color. We praying and we rebuking the demons in them. I can't make this up. All of a sudden, this deep growl and a voice that was not his, it was filled with bass, growl, it screamed out of him at me. Leave me alone. I was like, I rebuke you. And man, we went at it. Of course, some spirits came out of him, but some of the sisters that was with us, they got scared. They were like, oh. So, we left there. I was shaking. I was like, what happened? We went to a service that night, and this evangelist from Deliverance Evangelistic Church was preaching and teaching. She called us forth and began to pray. And as she began to pray for me, she said, your life will never be the same. Your ministry will never be the same. All right. Rabbi Dr. Makeda Boya, if you remember Mother Bunton, Faith and Deliverance, Church of God in Christ, pastored by the late Mother Bunton. I forgot where I met her at, but she invited me to come preach a revival for the young people. This was my first ever revival. I came there, I'm preaching. Church was filled with young people, young ladies. I'm saying that for a reason, y'all. I was single, handsome, you know, no hair on my face, you know, but thick, curly hair. I'm up there preaching. I'm preaching. And then I remember calling an altar call, and one of the young ladies came up to the altar. I went and laid hands, and when I touched her, screams, growl. It was a demon. A demon manifest. But this time I was ready. I was like, I bind you, and I was casting down, and she started, you know, gagging and you know, throwing up, and I was like, whoa. And from there, I will start running revivals. People will call me in to preach revivals. The deliverance ministry kicked in. Now, I went to Puerto Rico. For a mission, along, because I had belonged to the school. I was going to the school, Jameson Evangelistic Ministry, School of Ministry, right? They had a mission in Puerto Rico. Well, I went. Me and my family, we ministered in Puerto Rico. My daughter was 2 years old at the time. Little did we know that we had family in Puerto Rico. But that's another topic for another day. So we preaching, and we went to a service, a Friday night service at a church in Bayamon, Puerto Rico. Danielle, Rabbi Makeda, Rabbi Abigail, let me tell y'all something. I never experienced the power of Yah, the Ruach HaKodesh. The Ruach HaKodesh came as a mighty wind through that sanctuary. It blew strong. People ran to the altar and lay prostrate before the Messiah. And as I'm worshiping, thank you, Yah. I feel it. As I'm worshiping, the Ruach HaKodesh spoke to me and said, when you return home, you will begin your church. You will begin to pastor. I obeyed, and I'm going to tell you something, I went through hell like you never would dream, but I had to obey. And as I began to pastor, we came apart, because I was already a member of the Churches of God in Christ, headquartered in Memphis, Tennessee. So when we opened our church, we brought it into the Church of God in Christ. So the other pastors would call me in to preach and bring my young congregation. Beloved, the deliverance anointing increased like I never would believe increased before. Every time I would preach and call an altar call, word of knowledge, prophecy, yes, they will flow. But as I began to minister, people started going through deliverance. I'm like, and because of that, right, Rabbi Abigail, the pastors hated me. They was like, we tired of you coming. Every time you come, demons start manifesting. I'm like, that's not my problem. That's your problem. Tell you what, you deal with your own demons. Leave me alone, right? That was just, right? So it brings me back to verse 5. Many shall come in my name. Listen, I wasn't running around giving myself a name. Later on, I have received an honorary Doctor of Divinity degree, from the school I attended. And They began to, rightfully so, call me Dr. Milner. Okay. My head didn't get big because as these titles was laid on me, suffering increased. Let's get into it. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Mashiach, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars, and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. I'm going to ask y'all that live in Philadelphia, Rabbi Dr. Makeda Deboya, Shalek Kai Ben Yehuda, Rabbi Abigail, you're close by. Do y'all notice? Matter of fact, let me ask you, Shalek Kai Ben Yehuda, do you notice how they're digging up all these streets all over Philadelphia? You notice that? Because do y'all remember when we had the Aleph Tav? We had the Aleph Tav eclipse. Remember that? Okay. What preceded the Aleph Tav eclipse, we had a lot of earthquakes in Philadelphia. A lot of people don't even remember that. Earthquakes in Philly, Delaware County, Bucks County, even in South Jersey. This is why they're doing a whole lot of digging up and replacing these pipes all over Philly and Delaware County, because the infrastructure was damaged because of the many earthquakes we had. That's mind-blowing. So we have witnessed earthquakes in diverse places. My wife wanted to go this year. She wants to visit Los Angeles. She wants to go to California. So I said, okay, for your birthday, we're gonna go. I'm not that happy because I'm scared of the West Coast. I don't want to get on the West Coast and that bad boy start shaking, because the big one is coming for the California. And if y'all listen to this video, I'm telling y'all, I'm warning y'all, it's coming. The West Coast is going to get hit from San Francisco all the way down to Los Angeles. The big one is coming. And it's going to happen any moment now. That's what's scary. So I've been praying. I said, Father, can you just let us step foot in Las Vegas and Los Angeles just one time? And then when we leave, if you want to shake it in the ocean, you can. That's my relationship with the Messiah. I had that. I said, let me just go without an earthquake. But in the East Coast, we've had minor earthquakes for the reason why they're replacing all these pipes and digging up half the streets, right? So we have seen earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. I was just talking to my brother-in-law today, right? And I shared with him, I said, I was going to put my ministry under 501c3. He looked at me and said, why you didn't do it? I said, it's dangerous. I said, because the federal government, which runs 501c3 status, mandated any church, listen to me, any church, any pastor, whether you're a bishop, it don't matter. If you have a 501c3, you have to abide by their rules. One of their rules, beloved, is you cannot preach against homosexuality. You cannot come against LGBTQ. You can't do it. So in other words, they control what you preach and what you say. If you go under 501c3. And that's when I said, we're not going under 5 Now, we had a outreach program, like I remember Shalek Akai Ben Yehuda had, where he got involved with feeding and clothing and other things. That's different. You could put, if you have an outreach program, you could put that under 501c3. But when it comes to teaching and preaching, your preaching ministry, no, stay away from 501c3. All right. And going back, I remember the reason why they came up with 501c3s for what they call nonprofits. Well, listen, there was a time where all you had to do is have your charter. You be, so you can license and ordain people. That came through the state, right? But y'all remember Jim, was it Jimmy Baker, PTL scandal, Jimmy Swagger. Y'all remember that when all that big scandal came out? That's when Jim Baker, Jim Baker. That's when he got set up and somebody exposed him for taking the donations and all of that thing. That's when the government mandated that every chartered church that has a liable corporation, you have to be incorporated, and in order to be tax exempt, you had to go 501c3. They did that because of Jim Baker. I remember that. And it was hell. So by the time I began my ministry in terms for pastoralship, I had to go through a lot of hell. I had to go get a lawyer and get my my bylaws and charter together, right? So I said all that. I don't know why I went that way, but when he says nation rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, famines, pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then it says, then you're going to deal with deception. You're going to deal with betrayal. This is betrayal right here in verse 9. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted and shall kill you. And you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Beloved, they hate us now because we woke up as Israel. They hate us. They hate us. But guess who don't care? I don't care. Hate me all you want. Hate me all you want. Shalek Akai Ben Yehuda, do you remember me telling you the time I was I had to catch the train to go downtown, right? I had on a pair of slacks. I had my seats on. I had my head covering. I had a shirt, and the shirt says Israelite by blood, right? So the train pulls into 12th Street. I'm getting off. And as I'm getting off, here comes this Ashkenazi devil. He had gray eyes. He goes to my shirt. He looks at my shirt, and then he looked up at me with this wicked, evil, mean look. Stared at me, and I stared. You know what I did, Charlotte Cobb, right? You know, I don't back down for a fight. I look back at him. I'm like, what? What? I'm the real Jew. What? The Most High said, keep it moving. You don't get no fight down here in the subway. Keep it moving. So he said, y'all, we will be hated of all nations for his name's sake, right? Verse 11, and I think I'm gonna close with his. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. Many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. Let me stop right here with this point, and we're going to close this. The reason why I began to talk about the orbs and the lights in the sky and this meeting that went on between the government and these pastors, and they was told to warn your people. This is going to be Bible-changing information. They said that this information is going to have people, it's going to have some people not believing in the Bible anymore. I heard all of this. I was like, the devil is a liar. The devil is a liar. He is a liar. Satan is a liar. Okay? Because we've been teaching and preaching this for a long time. We've been telling you that there's going to be some signs in the skies, that they are the return of the Nephilim. UFOs are Nephilim flying in crafts, technology. So we're not deceived. We're not worried. We don't have to be scared, because greater is he that's in us than he that's in the world. So they can have these meetings, and these pastors who refuse to change and be filled with revelation knowledge from the Ruach HaKodesh, they could be scared, but I'm not, and neither are you, because greater is he that's in us than he that's in the world. So if by any chance a so-called alien comes into your house, you have the power through the name of Yahusha to command them